Hello, rock stars, or even better, drone stars. Welcome to another electrifying episode of the Dock and Roll webinar series, all brought to you by the band at Flightbase. If you are plugging into the show for the first time, let me all get you in sync. In this series, we bring in preeminent drone solutions providers and value added resellers from around the globe to exchange insights, experiences, and teleport you into the world of DJI Dock across a myriad of applications. Today, the focus of our set is to discuss the powerful duet of drone tech and project efficiency. As any maestro would tell you, managing a long term construction project or a mining operation has always been a complex task. Tracking the status, ensuring timelines, staying within the budget parameters can often all be too challenging. Drones have been providing a useful vantage point by addressing or adding those extra pair of eyes in the sky. But the introduction of automated systems like the DJI drop is going to bring in a significant shift. How? The spotlight definitely shines on the repeatability factor. You can have a drone up and running whenever you want and as many times as you want for multiple purposes, be it for security operations, at the site, or a quick incident response without even physically being there. So, enough preamble from my end. Let me now introduce you to the lead guitarist of today's jam. I'm delighted to welcome Marcus Jackson, Operations Manager at C3 Drones and Robotics. Marcus has been actively involved in the Australia's drone industry since 2018. He began his journey as a member of the country's first ever drone delivery operations, where he gained extensive experience conducting consumer delivery operations at the time when BVLOS was not even widely used. With his remote operations experience, he transitioned to focus on drone in a box operations, where he learned how to write BVLOS applications using SORA methodology and played a critical role in deploying and maintaining systems in the field. Today, as a member of the C3 Drones and Robotics crew, Marcus applies his knowledge and experience to assist a wide range of organizations in successfully implementing remotely piloted systems and pushing the boundaries of what's possible with drone tech. Hello, Marcus. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Vasali. Absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for your kind words.
Likewise, I would also like to introduce and shine the spotlight on my colleague and the Director of Business Development at Flightbase, Achal. Achal is here today to share his insights on how Flightbase with its tech is setting the tempo for efficient project management. Hello, Achal.
Hi, Vaishali. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everybody. Great to see you all.
Just a quick note before we get started. We are recording this session so that you can rewind and revisit the highlights whenever you wish, and we are going to publish it online soon. We're also going to open this floor for Q&A at the end of the session, so please keep in your backstage passes ready and do not hesitate to jot in your questions and queries in the Q&A tab. All of them would be addressed at the end of the session. So let's begin. Marcus, setting the stage, with your opening act, could you provide everyone an overview of C3 Drones and Robotics, its mission, and the services it offers?
Yeah, absolutely. So C3 Drones and Robotics is a company based in Queensland on the Gold Coast in Australia. We've been around about 18 months now, and we've kind of entered the drone scene as we saw a bit of a niche there where a lot of bigger organizations and governments and commercial businesses were looking to bring drones into their operations, but were struggling to get all the pieces that they needed. So where we've come in with C3 is we've brought together the hardware like the DJI products like the DJI Dock, software like Flightbase, our experience in the regulatory space in Australia and New Zealand, other communications hardware to help enable BVLOS operations. And then we even have support packages to make sure that those clients feel supported in the operations that they're trying to achieve. So that's kind of where our main focus here at C3.
Right. Would you like to talk about the services?
Yeah, so I kind of just touched on it just then, but basically the main thing we try and do is customize it, get an idea of your concept of operations. And we've already got some preset ideas of what you might be needing, but ultimately we want to try and customize a solution to get the best outcome for the data, you want to collect or the operations you want to perform. So like I mentioned, the regulatory, the software, the hardware, all coming together, all through one company. You're not talking to, 10 different people, and we just support you the whole way through to make sure it's a streamlined process to integrate drones into your business.
Thanks, Marcus. So, could you also offer like us a snapshot of the current drone landscape in Australia and its potential for adopting autonomous drone docks and operations?
Yeah, sure. So Australia's come a long way. I mean, I think in some aspects we've been a leader in the BVLOS space. Like you mentioned, I've got a bit of a background going back to 5 odd years ago where BVLOS kind of started. But now it's all heating up to well beyond even drone delivery and into the drone in the box space, where people are looking to automate and gain more efficiency. And there's, multiple drone in the box solutions out there. Flight-based supports many of them. And people are really interested in getting that automation going. So the BVLOS environment in Australia has grown through industries like the AAUS organisation for Australia, which is kind of all the companies that support the drone ecosystem are members of. And, through working with the regulator CASA, we've pushed a lot of new boundaries in the BVLOS space, which will enable remote ops centres, drone delivery, and DJI docks and other docking stations as they come available.
Thanks, Marcus. I noticed you touched upon, remote operation centers and how BVLOS operations are coming in. Interestingly, in the next slide, I do have an image of you operating one. So, Achal, you take a mic for a bit and share some essential considerations before setting up a remote operation center.
Sure. So, of course, we've been working with C3, and this is the command center which has been set up, which has multiple screens, as you see. So, Flightbase of course, provides a platform which is web-based, so you can have multiple screens. Either you can use a single dashboard to manage everything, or you could have the entire command center set up, where you see on the first screen on the left top, you have the admin dashboard, you have geofences, you have drone telemetry flying, you have the live video coming in, and all that data. Along with that, you can also set up other screens together and integrate it with Flightbase in a command center, where you could be looking at aircraft, UTM data, you could be looking at weather data. So on the right side, as the slide says, you could have multiple dashboards in a single command center. You can set up a system like this, or a live video wall where you can get drone video feeds from different kind of drones, entire fleet that you're flying, telemetry where the drone is flying. You can integrate with multiple cameras and see all that video feed. You can also integrate with alarms, where if you want to send drone on demand and you have multiple alarm sensors, it could be a perimeter security, it could be alarm from a public safety agency where you want to send the drone. You can have these kind of alert integration or alarm integrations done. And of course, weather data and flight radar data. Maybe Marcus, you would like to share the other 3 screens, what those means and what you're doing here. It'd be great for the audience to understand that as well.
Yeah, sure. So as part of a pretty standard BVLOS approval, I've got Flightbase on one screen, and on the other screen I've got ADS-B radar application. I think the one here I'm using is Flight Radar 24. That's just something that the regulator likes to see, so that you can look at the manned operations that are happening in your area. Also, at the same time, through the headset, I'm monitoring airband radio. So between the airband radio and having that up on the physical screen, I should be able to see any stray helicopters or anything, just to be, doubly sure. Down on the computer on the left, I've just got a weather application. I think it's windy. Can show a lot of aviation level weather from like local airports. So that's the most trusted weather sources by the regulator. So that's kind of what they recommend. So that's what we're using there. And then on the laptop, down in the right-hand corner, that's just our VHF solution. So as I just quickly mentioned, through the headset, I'm listening to the helicopters or planes in the area. There probably wouldn't be too many depending on where you are. Obviously, if you're in your city, there's a fair few, but that solution basically allows me to change the channel and the volume and communicate if I need to with those aircraft.
Great.
Right. Thanks, Marcus and Achal. And shifting gears back to you, what sets the DJI dock apart and what makes it an ideal choice for autonomous drone operations?
So the DJI dock, I mean, we've had it here for a little while now. Really robust system, very well put together. Even opening it up and looking on the inside, it's like come out of a car factory. Definitely up there with your DJI quality that everybody knows. It's got the really good water ingress protection, so that we've flown it in the rain. It operates up to 50 degrees and down below negative. The power requirements are pretty good. I know it's got a UPS internally that can even run up to 4 or 5 hours, which is pretty industry leading. I'm not really sure of anything else quite like that. And the M30 itself, people are probably familiar with this drone, but it's a very powerful system. The zooming capabilities are quite amazing, and the thermal component makes it a really good package. So all within a kind of footprint of 1 meter cubed. So again, a nice tight little package, nothing huge, nothing tiny, but I think it's a really good, robust system especially for construction and mining.
Also, would you like to highlight the operations? Yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, some of the benefits we've seen since flying it here, we're flying it on a construction site, which we'll see a little bit more later, but just straight up front, the 24/7 monitoring that you can do on site, just the drone being there can be deployed at any time. I know that one of the project managers on site talked about security in construction sites can be a problem depending on the area. Anything that's loose could be taken. So having a drone like this, just even if it's doing regular flights or irregular flights, just creates a powerful presence to prevent that kind of intrusion. The automated data capture. So you could, get data capture with a standard drone, but having the DJI dock set up, you could do it on a regular basis, maybe at a time when people aren't there or when the sun's best in the sky. Have a pipeline where it uploads to a system where project managers can discern over that data. And in real time, they could view the stream from the drone, combined with other cameras on site or other input sources through a software like Flightbase. So, they can combine all that into a clouds platform and analyze it, and it can make their operations a lot more efficient.
Right. Moving on to Achal. Achal, would you like to, now that Marcus has shared about the DJI dock, could you highlight some of the unique benefits of the flight-based platform and what it brings in on the table?
Sure, absolutely. So we'll go through 6 different pointers, right, which highlights the entire platform that Flightbase provides and how, as an enterprise, you can leverage this to integrate automated drones in your application. So maybe, Vishal, you can start going through those points and I'll talk through where, of course, the entire approach of building Flightbase is to have autonomy at scale. So the system has been designed for operators, not remote pilots, where you do not need to have active interventions. It is like minimal interventions that you'd have to do to operate this kind of system. So we imagine that as these deployments scale, a single operator will be managing multiple drones, right, or multiple drone-in-the-box systems, where drones would fly autonomously and get all the data that is required. So the system has been designed for scale and specifically for automated drone operations and minimizing interventions. The next piece is about the safety first mindset, where you can prioritize safety throughout. So we have different fail safes that we're going to talk about. Our system has been built with robustness and reliability. And we have a specific topic covering that in further slides. We also have APIs which extend the use case, right? So this is something we'll again talk about, where there is no dependency on Flightbase for integrations, where you can even build your own IP or integrate your existing systems. We have so many customers from across the globe coming to us say that, hey, we already have our dashboards. We are seeing live video feed from our CCTV cameras, sensors. We might have right now a fleet of manual drones where pilots are flying that. We want to integrate automated drone into our existing UI or existing applications. So it could be a video management system that they have already implemented, or they have a specific toolkit or a tool chain where they want to post-process the data using this. So Flightbase provides the entire API, so you're not just stuck to the dashboard that we provide. You can actually build apps on top of it and have your own interfaces, your own integration done using these APIs. We are, of course, BBLOS approved. So the next point is about BBLOS, where we have been already operating with our partners in 8+ countries. So from both the sides, where partners are like CT take care of the BBLOS regulations, our role comes into providing technical features where these operations could be safe, it's a well documented, it's a predictable system. That's what you need for safety, because when you're writing a SORA, you need to assess the risk, and you know how the system performs in such kind of situations. Of course, aircrafts, be it crewed, uncrewed, there is always a risk factor. It's all about assessing that risk and minimizing the risk and having a predictable system. So that is something that we've been doing from last 3 years since the drone in the box space is picking up, and we've been working with so many partners from hardware, software, as well as our regulatory partners who help us with this. So the system has been designed technically for operations for people. Now, one of the critical components is, of course, data security. Now, people are integrating this into their existing system, and you need enterprise-grade security because you have a lot of sensitive data. It could be law enforcement, it could be your commercial property or factories, or it could be something related to a government use case where you're flying and securing that area. So deployment options are available where you could have different kind of deployments, be it like an multi-tenant cloud deployment, which is, of course, has all the compliance. So we're going to talk about that in the further slides. But we also provide on-prem or a hybrid kind of deployment depending upon the enterprise-grade security. So this is something which is very focused on enterprises because we understand their requirement. They already have their data centers or they have their own private cloud, and if they want that kind of system, as they plan to scale with multiple drone and dogs, with now DJI dog coming into the picture, we are there to support them. And as well as partners in scale. So we closely work. So you can see a partnership with C3. And that is how we also work with customers together, where we closely tell them what are the things that are coming in, where we can provide the dedicated customer support. We have a dedicated customer support team which can provide a remote support, as well as we have partnered with C3 in Australia where they can provide the on-ground support for deployment and any maintenance that would be required for such kind of systems in the coming time.
Thanks, Achal, for highlighting these pointers. So if I had to ask another question around in the world of drone operations, we are dealing with like gigabytes of highly confidential visual data, and data security are one of the top concerns which you also mentioned. And could you just share a little more around how Flightbase is going to or is tackling these problems?
Sure. So as I briefly shared, we have been designing the entire system for data security and compliance. So we are already now working on industry compliances. So we are already GDPR compliant, as well as now we'll be soon ISO 27001, and about next 3 months will be SOC 2 compliant as well. So as you're looking to start your real production operations with DJI Dock, you would have industry compliance software platform available for you to use and deploy this at scale. So we are taking care of that, and these are the basic things that are required for any enterprise-grade software. So that is something we have been investing already from last 6 months, and now we would be ready for these compliance. We, of course, have the entire system where your data, your control. Even our standard solution offers you to store data on your private storage. You could, of course, have a hybrid deployment where video images, and even the streaming happens to your servers and rest of the things are on the public cloud, or go entire on-prem where you have your own IT teams or an ICT team who can take care of your cloud infrastructure, and we can help you deploy in this. Of course, the generic solution, which is ready to use and you can really get started under like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, is on AWS, which is compliant to all the security certifications, and you can have your own private cloud storage done where you could store the data. Say if you're in Australia, you can store the data in Australia where it does not go out of that region. Briefly talking about architecture, so this is of course for the cloud software. What you see here is a diagram where our edge layer has, of course, the network firewall. So the dog does not communicate to any other server, right? So your data is not going anywhere else. Even in our standard cloud software, it is talking to the flight-based cloud on the AWS servers that we have. And all is being done through an SSL encryption with all the network firewall, as well as on the flight-based cloud layer as well. We have the entire encryption data stores into your own private cloud. And when it is coming to your dashboard as well, it is again through the encryption. So the data is not going anywhere apart from the flight-based servers, which are compliant as we saw in the last slide, or you can have an hybrid or on-prem deployment. So we guarantee that the data is secure with the flight-based platform for enterprises.
That sounds great, Achal. If I had to move forward, let's talk about applications now. So, Marcus, you mentioned that the doc is kind of multi-instrumentalist. Can you shed some light on the various applications where DJI doc can be used across multiple use cases in project management?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the first slide I've got here is about inspections. That's especially what we're doing in the short time we were doing a trial on a construction site. So you could inspect various areas of a large building, especially with multiple floors, on a regular basis, compare how things are growing and changing. The high resolution cameras on the M30 are perfect for this. You can even zoom in through areas you might not be able to fly into, but with the amazing camera capabilities, you can see all sorts of different areas and monitor them. I guess this also comes into stitching things together and creating that digital twin, and monitoring a lot of the machinery as well on site that need regular inspection. And moving on to the next slide. Yeah, in the next slide, we're talking about mapping, which is definitely where we're getting into the digital twin space. But even in when the construction site begins, and there's a lot of earthworks and the slab is laid, that's when the regular inspections of the drone you can use to calculate your volumetric movement of dirt, and that can help project managers make assessments on, getting everything level and sorted more efficiently so that, less machinery movements are required. And then if you had a system to go around, even when you're starting to put walls up and get your construction going, you can do internal, and then you can do external regularly with the drone, and then building that digital twin. You can then organize operations on site. So you might have electricians, the builders, all those different groups that come into a construction site. You might be able to organize them more effectively and have groups going to the right places at the right times using something like a digital twin. And then surveillance, like I said, even when I was on site, one of the managers talked about surveillance being an issue. So the drone's there when nobody else is. And if you set it up with a remote operations center, it's really the perfect use case. Could take off irregularly, doing a predefined mission, and then you could break out of that mission, go, oh, what's over here, switch to thermal, zoom in, there's various aspects you could focus on, but basically just the presence of the drone will provide quite a deterrent factor in of itself. But, with a drone like an M30, it's a very effective tool just to stop, anything moving that it shouldn't be, or anyone entering the site, even from safety concerns. People could go in there and injure themselves, so it's certainly good for that. And finally, as I just touched on with safety, emergency response, a lot of construction sites might have cranes or machinery moving around. If there was ever any incidents that could occur, even fires in the machinery or the construction itself, having that aerial, that instant aerial footage, like the live feed, through a software like Flightbase, you can share that out to parties where it's needed. You can even, the operator can have multiple cameras. So if there are other cameras, they're kind of getting visuals from multiple cameras plus the drone. And it's just really allows for really good awareness of something that could be unfolding. And even when firefighters and response personnel start to arrive, that information that's so key would just let them go, this is the hottest part of the fire. Here's exactly, if it's a huge construction site, here's exactly where the incident occurred with this machine. And that information is just invaluable. So, and where else, this, obviously the points I just touched on have a much broader scope, and I've seen docs using many other use cases, not just on a construction site like we saw trial the other day. So mines are a big one, and earthworks and quarries. I talked about the volumetric movement of the dirt. So obviously this is very important, and it can help them maximize efficiency with the movement of machinery. If they're all burning diesel, it'd be great if they burned less. So being able to optimize how all that works, and then know exactly what dirt and material they're moving where, and then going over to energy applications like wind turbines and power plants, being able to regularly monitor these, making sure there's no cracks, leaks, issues, is quite invaluable to a team, especially on a regular basis. Especially in the power plants, you could start to form a digital twin. And I've seen where with this digital twin, it creates, effective management where you can get this exact person to go to this exact place on the digital twin and fix this exact system. And it all just lines up, and all of your compliance can be linked to that. So it just creates a really powerful system. And finally, secure sites. So security, this could be government sites, all sorts of different applications there, and dam wall inspections, monitoring cracks, critical infrastructure. There's definitely something where you want to regularly monitor that.
Right. Thanks, Marcus, especially for highlighting all the different areas where DJI Dock can be used. And especially while it is true that you can always send a human to conduct these operations, but especially in terms of emergency response, and if there's an incident, sending somebody at a moment's notice is highly unlikely. And that's where I think DJI Dock can play a dual role in covering both the scheduled patrols as well as in such emergency incidents. And like you said, the drone sees what nobody else sees, right? So it's always better to have an automated system instead of having the humans conduct operations. So moving on to Ajay, would the flight-based platform be able to support all these applications, especially when we're talking about BVLOS and BVLOS operations at this point?
Sure, right. So Flybase has been designed not just hardware agnostic, but it is also use case agnostic. So as we've been talking about the platform, it allows you to use automated drones, specifically with DJI Dock and the N30 combination, to leverage it on the use cases that we saw. So we already spoke about different benefits of Flightbase, but let's look at maybe how would you use Flightbase platform in different kind of stages. So of course, the way we see the operations happening is, of course, what you do in pre-flight, during the flight, as well as post-flight. So we provide a lot of components for your pre-flight planning, where not just you can, of course, have your mission plans and being done, which you do with your typical GCS kind of software, but there are a lot of integrations required for BBLOS. Now, this is where integrations with AirSense, the data that DJI provides, ADSB integration, even when the drone and dock is closed, we can integrate with third-party ADSB tools to get that data on the dashboard. You could have custom pre-flight checklist plan, where depending upon your SOPs, standard operating procedures, You can create your own checklist in the flight now, flight-based platform. Plus, you could have all the weather data available for planning. So we were talking about windy before when we're looking at the remote command center. So you can get the current weather data or maybe forecast of that particular area where how the weather is going to look like. We also have partners with Cassia G, that is Iris Automation, which provides sense and avoid technology, where you could have a ground-based sensors to detect aircraft. So we're partnering with a lot of other companies who are providing complementary BBLOS solutions and getting that data. One of the most important thing that is now becoming very minimum requirement is to look at the dog from a third-party camera. So you could do visual inspection before the drone and dog flies, and you could put CC cameras. You might be putting a security fence around the dock itself because you want to secure that on a site or a construction site. So that would become very important, not just from the security perspective, but from the visual inspection kind of perspective as well. Does the drone is in the good shape to fly for such kind of situations? So of course you get the video feed from the DJI dog camera, which is there, which is a good fish eye camera sitting on the dog. But in case you want to look at from the outside and have camera, you integrate that for the pre-flight checks. So that's about the pre-flight. Now, when the drone is flying, let's look at the in-flight things which are required for BBLOS. Right? So I have just highlighted 3 points. There are a number of things, and these are like all these 3 points have multiple nested solutions inside, where you have a lot of fail safes, like advanced fail safes, not just what happens in your critical low battery kind of situations, whatever you lose a link to your dock, or you lose your link to your flight-based dashboard, where you may be flying multiple drones in the air and something happens to your command center. So of course, it's a web-based, so it could be open at any other system as well. But if you, in case, lose the connection with even the remote command center, you could have fail-safe set where the drone would complete the mission and come back and land, or it could immediately trigger return to docking station. All those fail-safes are built in, plus weather fail-safes. So you could set those thresholds that the drone is not rated to fly, or your regulatory permissions do not allow you to fly in certain weather conditions. These could be set. There are a lot of regulations where if you're not getting a weather data, you're not compliant to fly from the docking station. So you can get all of that into dashboards and set that data. Plus, you can, of course, set all the geofence, which we are working with the DJI dock. So this existed in flight base. Now it's coming for DJI dock as well, where you'll be able to set geofence of that area, and drone would remain in that area. So that's during the flight. Now, the interesting part comes that you have automated data collection. What do you do with that data? And that is actually enabling the use case, right? Because you're flying a drone to collect the data. Now, this is where integrations, logs, and reports come into the picture. So first, as we were talking about, we provide you the integration where you can have an AWS S3 cloud storage. So all the data that is being stored is automatically uploaded to your private AWS S3 storage. And now you could use any other third-party software to post-process the data. So where you could have any post-processing software to have ortho maps done, or you have AI analysis software to detect something. You have a digital twin software to create that. You can take that data and integrate that software with this cloud bucket and get it done. You also have advanced logs and reports. So for use cases like security, public safety, we have built-in reports available where you can play back the missions. You can see what happened in that mission. If somebody put down annotations, like a text annotation on the map, you'd be able to see that on the dashboard. Now, as you would scale, you would, of course, want a full automated workflow, and that is where these APIs come into the picture. So currently, you can get started with integrating with AWS S3 and process the data, but maybe when you are scaling, you would want end-to-end pipeline to post-process the data. And that is where these APIs for integrating any software comes handy, where you can create an entire pipeline where, say, you're flying a drone, you're sending the live video streaming to our AI software to process it, send alerts. Once the drone is done, you are again reviewing the entire site or creating a 3D model or ortho map to get a better handle of what happened in that situation. Create reports, submit reports, or integrate with your own ERP kind of solution where you can have all the logs and data available into your existing business workflow. So all of this is coming in a big way where this could be integrated depending upon which use case, which application you're using DJI Dock and Flightbase for.
Thanks, Achal, for walking through the different categories of drone operations or different the life cycle of the entire drone operation. So we have a clip prepared by the C3 crew showcasing a day in life at a construction site with the DJI Dock and Flight Base. So let's all check it out. Achal or Marcus, would you like to walk through it?
Sure, maybe Marcus, you would like to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're just operating out of the back of our truck there. It was a really easy setup. We just offloaded the DJI dock out of a trailer, walked through the steps on the controller. Flight base was already paired, and we set up a grid mission here and went through the checklist. And really it was easy as that. The drone took off and started collecting the data.
That's great. So what you see here is, of course, the drone flying from the Flightbase dashboard. You see the real-time video feed from the docking station, from the drone camera. It might look a little bit laggy because of the live streaming that we're doing, but you get the live HD video feed on the dashboard. You can see the live telemetry, where the drone is flying on the maps, the live location. And on the left, if you see, you have the DJI dock telemetry coming in. We can enter into the cockpit view where you can see that in great detail, as well as mission is being progressed. You see two icons on the map, which is the home location and the safe location. A little bit, I'd just like to share about the safe location. So every dock has a safe location. In case something happens to the dock, the drone would come back and land. You can, of course, use the zoom capabilities on the dashboard for the drone. It, of course, depends on the drone. The drone should have that. If you're using a DJI M30T, you could also switch to some video feed to that. And once the mission is done, the drone will come back and land. Maybe, Marcus, you'd like to share about the precision landing bit here that DJI is already done, and how well does it work? How has been your experience? I think there was already a question in the chat about that.
Yeah, sure. I did notice that. There's kind of two things that they work on from what I understand. There's obviously the system uses both the drone and the dock uses RTK. So that's kind of GPS correction. So that allows for, 1 or 2 centimeters level of accuracy. It also means that the drone, like the box is once it's set up, it's best not to move it for that level of accuracy. But once you set it up, from what I've seen, it could almost land on the dock just using that system. But what else you'll notice is when the drone comes into land, the camera looks down and it's using the vision system to line up with those white triangles. You would have seen in the end of the video there's 4 white triangles. Look on the base of the DJI dock, and the vision system is actually in collaboration with the RTK, making sure that the drone really centers down into the center of the docking station there. And from what I've seen, even in a reasonable breeze, you can see the 4 white triangles there. Even in a reasonable breeze, like it was right in the middle, like within 5 centimeters of the middle of the dock. So very impressive. Even if it's really windy, like right on limits, and it lands a bit off kilter, you can see there when we press play on the video that the rods are coming in, positioning the drone anyway. So they've accommodated for everything, and from what I've seen, it's a really robust setup.
Right. Yep. Great. Maybe we can move to the next one where we'd like to introduce the updated things. So we'd like to talk about this. So far, of course, we had a process where you can integrate DJI dock. It used to take about 15 minutes or so, or half an hour to integrate it. Now, today we are announcing a new device registration flow, which would be completely automated, where You do not have to talk to our customer support team to integrate a new DJI dock that you have. So we are launching a new device registration where would be able to sign up. You'd be able to link your dock really easy with just the process workflow. Now, of course, this has been designed as now we're seeing more and more dogs coming as the commercial shipments are getting started. So this is something which we really useful for our partners, for end customers to get started with the DJI dock. So this is something which is coming in flight base now.
Right. Thanks, Achal. Marcus, just because you've done all the setup in Australia, how is the setup of the DJI dock as well? Like, how simple is it? What are the different site requirements? What should people, make sure before they are thinking of investing in a DJI dock, or what different parameters should they consider?
Yeah, sure. So from what I understand, it's a fairly easy process to walk through. I think I'll just touch on the DJI side first, which is basically we, did some training with DJI themselves for this, but their preference would be that the dock's, mounted on a nice solid concrete pad. So if that's, possible on the site you're considering, that's probably the best way forward. I think it ties back to the RTK, that you really just don't want any movement. Once that's set, as it, that's what the drone and the system is relying on for that landing accuracy. Moving on from that, you probably need to get an electrician involved or somebody with the right ticket for that to get the electricity plumbed up to the drone. It's kind of quite an industrial product in that sense, where they're looking for a high level of professionalism on an install. But basically, all you really need is power. It's got a 4G or LTE router built into the DJI dock. So if that's something you want to utilize, that's already built in. But you can also plug in, if you've got access to fiber, obviously that would be incredibly fast. So if you want to plug that straight in, then you can just run that with your power. And that would make for a really fast internet connection. So that would make the uplink to your cloud platform much faster. Going into the flight-based side of things, really pairing with flight-based before was quite quick because all we needed was the MQTT address and our account name and password. But now it looks like it'll be even more seamless, where you can set it on your dashboard and it kind of does it for you. So really there's not even much to talk about because it looks like it's going to be that seamless. But yeah, once you get all that set up, you've open closed, you've calibrated the drone, set it all up, you've got flight base paired. I think you're really on your way to set up your first test mission, and then plan to your heart's content with grid missions and whatever inspections you need.
Right. And what's like the typical time that it takes? An hour, less than an hour? Like, if you had to share a time frame of setting this whole thing up?
Well, for us that's done it a few times, I'd say we could probably easily do it in about half an hour with that sort of
Right.
our system that's warm in terms of we're familiar, we've got it out of the box and everything's kind of established. Got an account with Flightbase and set everything up. I think if you were coming into it a bit colder, it might take you a little while to get over if you were fresh to Flightbase, fresh to DJI, might take you a little while, but still we're talking, mere hours. We're not talking onboarding of, long periods of time or overly complex or, systems that aren't intuitive. So I still think it's a fairly minimal time frame.
Achal, were you saying something?
No, I was talking about this would actually speed up a lot of processes, because that is the thought that was coming in my mind. Because if it takes you less than a day or less than few hours, right? So you can easily get started, and even if you're doing multiple deployments, like you're driving from one place another place and multiple teams going, it will be much faster to deploy multiple dogs on a single or multiple sites going there. So this is something which would quickly able to help customers scale really fast. So yeah, that's a great thing.
Absolutely.
Moving on, Achal, would you also like to share about the different software integrations that are going to be required as we dive deeper into the world of beaverless operations? The different features that are going to be required, and could you highlight some of them?
Sure. So we briefly touched upon them before in our pre-flight, but this is something that we have been working dedicatedly to bring lot of BVLOS enablement features. The detect and avoid technology, the DAA technology would be really important. So technology like Cassia G, which can detect in cooperative and non-cooperative aircraft. So in your operational environment, so there it could be a two-seater plane flying, or that could be a private chopper that is just flying there, and you want to detect that. So that is something which where detect and avoid technology will really help, because you can get the data on the dashboard, and you can have automated maneuvers, or at least the notification to the remote operator to control. As well as ADSB comes into picture. We're partner with Ping USB, which provides real-time updates and aircraft stated updates as well. When the drone and dock is closed or powered off, you still have your ADS guitar on the dock. Then, of course, UTM systems like Altitude Angel or Invori, depending upon where you're based, we can integrate with the UTM system and get that data. You have 5G connectivity, LTE connectivity coming on the drone. So this is something which would come to even DJI Dock and M30, considering we now have PSDK support, where you could have an onboard computer on the drone and you could have direct connectivity. Now, this would be really useful for certain use cases where you're flying maybe in an area where you have buildings where your standard RF connection could be blocked, and direct connectivity or 5G, or for other use cases in the future where people wish to have drone dogs fly for even longer range connected over 4G, 5G. So that is something which should be available. And then, of course, parachute recovery systems, which become very important when you're flying over people, specifically in urban areas. So we partner with AVS, PRS, and DRS for safe landings, where you could have these parachutes mounted on the drone. And of course, you have the settings and dashboard available in the flight-based dashboard to configure all of this. So these are some examples. Of course, it totally depends where you're based, what regulatory approvals you require, what makes your operation safe, be it in like a remote area or it's an urban area. So we are having a bouquet of these kind of modules, which could be plugged into the flight-based platform, depending upon your application and the geography you're operating in. So let's talk about a little bit about advanced safety features. So one thing that has been, of course, really helpful for the dog deployment so far, which has happened at scale, is dynamic path planning. Because most of the drones, or of course, every drone takes a straight path back home. And if you could send the drone through a mission to a particular location, but in case it triggers return to home, it's going to take a straight path. Now, this is where dynamic path planning module comes to the picture, where it could be fully automated and drones can avoid no-fly zones and come back and land. Similarly, if you're flying over a linear asset, now this could be a pipeline, a gas pipeline, or it could be a highway or railway track, you might only have a right of way to fly above that, because apart from that, you could have different systems right there. So you can plan this corridor missions, and the drone would stay in that area and even operate in that area for to going to a particular point, like responding to an alarm or coming back to the home location. And of course, then you can set geofence as well, which could be a polygon where you can set the limits, and the drone would not go out of that area. We have now, of course, great logs and reports, where not only you can have the entire dashboard where you can see the playback, the overview, the media that has been collected. You can also see additional integration reports, like if you are integrating with any AI system, you can see what kind of objects, be it like human detection or a vehicle detection, a license plate recognition. Yeah, you can filter that data, right? You can also have annotations that are text annotations that are done. Plus, you can also integrate with alarms. And then now we also have the PDF available where you can download all the data into the PDF. This is very helpful for submitting any reports either to your internal management or external agencies, where you could have it for any kind of future reference or filing that report with a specific organization. We are now actively working with the partners to create ready templates and documentation with Sora, so that becomes really easy with the hardware software that we provide. And this is where you can reach out to C3 and us together if you're in Australia, where we'll be able to help you create this and have the entire Sora done for you and assist you apply for a waiver.
Right. Thanks, Achal. Moving on to Marcus specifically. So before we wrap things up, how can companies in Australia get started with the DJI dock, and how does C3 help with the deployment process?
Yeah, absolutely. So the DJI dock's not fully commercially available yet, but DJI has let us know that it's definitely not too far away. We're talking a matter of weeks now. So the one we've got's a fairly early model, but very close to being out. Definitely get in contact if you're interested in looking more into the DJI dock. We're also hosting demos. We're in the Queensland region, southeast Queensland region of Australia, so we'll probably be holding another demonstration soon and going down even to the Sydney region a little bit later on. So even if you're not sure and you're on the fence, reach out and you can come have a look and ask all the questions and look at the software and look at the hardware in the flesh, and hopefully that can help you understand what it's about and if it suits your operation.
Right. Just letting everyone know, C3 just had a demo day yesterday in Brisbane. So could you share the experience? How did that go?
I think it went really well. It's a lot of positive feedback, a lot of people that were keen to get eyes on the dock. I know it's been a bit of a ramp up. Everyone, saw it was announced probably 12 months ago now. And
Right.
yeah, people have already the cogs have started turning to how this could be such a useful tool on site. And even looking at it in person, and even when we opened it up and showed some of the waterproofed and really well put together internals, I know even some of them, mining clients and energy clients are like, wow, this could really work in Australian conditions, especially with the built-in air conditioning when it gets really hot. So that's important consideration here. So I think it was really good feedback. And we did a mapping mission of this field with Flightbase. So I think, that's a really good combo for some of these people. So it was definitely a really good day.
Right. And just to add to it, I think Marcus, C3 is also visiting the World Mining Congress, which is happening from the 26th to the 29th in Australia as well, in Brisbane, Australia. And would you like to, provide a CTA, or how can they reach out to you in case anybody is visiting from the audience?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be there. We'll have the DJI dock. If you can't make it, please get my details and let us know, and we'll have Flightbase up on the screen as well, and we might even do an opening and closing. But we'll have the hardware there. Please get in touch if you're keen to learn more.
Right. Before again we wrap up, I have a few audience questions. So one question is always around the regulatory challenge. So given your experience with Sora documentation, can you give everyone a little more info about the waiver application process for DJI dock or docking stations in Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're coming into it fairly cold and fresh, you probably got a little bit ahead of you in Australia, just in terms of getting a REOC sorted. That's kind of your Bible towards it, the main documentation that you would use to base your drone operations around. So once you get that established, that basically allows your business to do VLOS operations, and then adding onto your REOC, you can add night operations, extended visual line of sight operations, and BVLOS operations. Moving into, BVLOS operations, well, BVLOS operations take a little bit of time to get approved. So if you are really excited, you could get somebody on site and get a EVLOS operation going where you might be able to control it using a software like Flight Now and just have somebody on site to watch the airspace. But going through the SORA methodology and putting together a concept of operations or putting all that documentation together, you then submit your BVLOS application and wait a little while for that to get approved and the regulator to be happy with how you've laid everything out. And obviously we would help you through the whole process. But then once that gets approved, it's usually an area-specific approval. So fortunately, we're not there yet where you can get a large area approved quite yet for BVLOS, but you get your area approved, which might be your whole mine site, your whole solar farm, your whole construction site. And, if you've planned accordingly, hopefully your approval comes in, you can set the drone up and then away you go. You can use a software like Flightbase to get going and start doing inspections and mapping right away.
Right. Thanks for explaining that through Marcus. I have a few questions around the DJI Doc's operational range, and can that operational range be extended by any way? Marcus?
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the DJI Doc's range is about 7 kilometers from, the specifications. We haven't really tested this yet. In terms of extending it, I'm not really aware of anything for extending the range from DJI at this point. I mean, they're still, the dock still is about to be, available to the public. So I'm sure some functionality could come in terms of radio, that OcuSync 3 range boosting, something could be added there. Also, 4G or the 4G, 5G capability could be added to the drone where it doesn't actually need the range extended via the OcuSync. It can just switch over and run through the local 4G network. So that would technically give you unlimited range. So you could, doing that, you could space 2 docks and maybe have a drone fly between them if the software can catch up. But yeah, certainly that'd be an exciting prospect.
Right. Thanks, Marcus. A few questions for Achal. Achal, how is the data transfer after flight? Because you mentioned about, adding it to the processing engine. Is it automated? How does that work?
Yep, right. So it's called Cloud Media Sync. So we can sync the data really quick from docking station. Of course, it's good to have a fiber connection because if you're sending that kind of a data, you'll need that kind of internet speed and the bandwidth on this. So the data is, of course, transmitted through the docking station as it is connected to the cloud. In the future, if you're using a PHDK setup, there would be ways where you can directly stream from the drone as well. But if you're looking for right now to use, the best way is to get the data from the docking station, and you can post-process that as we spoke about in the previous slides during the webinar.
Right. A follow-up question to that is, does any of the data go to DJI servers while performing missions in Flightbase?
No, so it doesn't. So that is something Flightbase takes care of, where you have the entire firewall. And as we explained in one of the diagrams, where during, of course, the activation, the DJI needs to activate and you need to contact. But after that, once you're connected to Flightbase, no data of yours is going outside those servers.
Right. Okay. Following up, just one last question. I think around, is the dock compatible with other customized drones? At this point, no. But Marcus, would you like to share anything apart from that?
I mean, yeah, I'm not really aware of any other drones. I mean, DJI might have something that they're working on, but that's yet to be seen. I think the one thing that I will touch on is it's an important thing to understand. If you're, an operator out there that already has an M30 and an M30T, unfortunately, you can't use that drone with the DJI dock. As when you purchase a DJI dock, it comes kind of with the docking station and the M30 drone. and the M30T drone has the special equipment already in it for the charging capability. So really, it's only the M30T at this stage, but likely if this product is going to be a hit, which hopefully it is, that DJI's got plans for other things in the future.
Right. Thanks again. I think we are out of time. We've already crossed the 1 hour time limit that we have for this webinar. So it was quite a set. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I hope everyone's joining in also did have a good time and did enjoy the conversation. If there is any feedback for how should we conduct this webinar series, or any such thing, any such questions that you would want us to cover, or topics you would like us to discuss, please feel free to shoot over, or drop us an email at contact@flightbase.com, and we should be happily incorporating them. Marcus, Achal, do you have any last closing thoughts before we close the curtain?
Yep, I'll just quickly thank first Marcus for his time and spending all those insights and the initial demos that are happening. I think we are just at that risk of starting to see the large scale deployments coming in few months and people getting hands on their first DJI dock. So exciting times ahead, and we'll be coming back with more content as we are starting to deploy these DJI dock in Australia with C3. So yeah, stay tuned with us and we'll share that in the coming webinars. And thank you, Marcus. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you very much, Achal. Really appreciate it. Pleasure to be here. And thank you, Vasali, as well. Just like to add, if you're looking into the DJI dock or you're curious, like I mentioned, we're doing demonstrations and have plenty of information, and I've already had it here so we've got some on the ground insights. So especially using Flightbase as well. So if you're on the fence or you're looking for more information, please don't hesitate to let us know. We'll be more than happy to help.
Sure, we'll also drop in Marcus's coordinates on the chat for anybody for easy access. Thank you again, the audience as well. All of you have an awesome day out there. Thank you for joining in today.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Yeah.
Cheers.